Hi guys, I'm Alessandra Fischer, presenter of the Hora da Poetisa. We are here at meal number 5 and we're gonna meet with Christa Brown, the founder of Free Soil Arts Collective. I'm pretty excited to be here with you, Christa Brown. I want to start by asking you if you're from Lowell and if you can share a little bit of your background.
Sure. So I'm from Haverhill, technically. I moved around a lot growing up. So we're from Haverhill, then we moved to Hartford, Connecticut when I was 12, Virginia for high school and college, and I've been back in the area since 2012. So it's been about 10 years for me, and it's been a journey. I'd say up until college. I have a twin sister, Angelica, and our life was a little tumultuous, so a lot of instability, not knowing where we were going to live sometimes or where food's going to come from. And I feel like now my adult years, I'm kind of want to be happy. I'm living my life. So this stage of my life is really great.
So why Lowell?
So it's funny. So my stepmom, Kathy, she lives in Drake, Massachusetts. And when she was with my dad, we would come to Lowell all the time when I was 9 years old, and we went to like Elliott Church. We danced with the Anchor Dance Troupe, and I remember when I was older and graduated college in 2012, I honestly didn't have a place to go. I hadn't applied for grad school. I didn't really have any plans, and my stepmom reached out and she was like, just come up to Drake and figure it out. And I was like, okay. So graduation day, we like packed up the car, we drove from Virginia to Drake, and I just stayed. And one of my first jobs was working at the boot mills as a museum teacher, and that's where I kind of fell in love with like the history of this place. And the community was just so warm and inviting, and I felt like I had found a place to settle and to choose, which was new for me, to like decide where I got to live. So yeah, it really was because of family, and the community here kind of really inspired me to stay and see what I could do here. Yeah.
And can you tell me from the time since you were a child to now, what were the challenges? Yeah, you mentioned about it was not stable and things like that, but in terms of career, like you, how old are you when you realized you want to be an actor?
Oh gosh, I was 12, so we were in Connecticut at the time. And sometimes when you're homeless and like you're staying in a shelter, you have to be out for a certain time. So we would have to be out in the morning, and we couldn't come back until 6 o'clock. So our mom would take us to the library, she'd take us to the park, and at the park there was this traveling theater troupe. And I like raised my hand as a little kid, and I had one line in this play, and I just felt happy and excited, and I was like, I want to do this. What is this? And then I found acting and theater and after school programs, and I feel like I just clung to it for life because it made me feel alive. So really since 12 years old, I've been acting since then because of this traveling group in a park.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I just completed a survey for the city of Lowell today, and I add that.
Oh, good.
Projects using art to work with the homeless.
Yes.
I feel that there's a need there, and there's like so many amazing artists in the city that could be using their work to help, so thank you for sharing that. So you came to Lowell, and when did you come up with this idea to start an organization, a profit organization, a Free Soil Arts Collective? I want you to share a little bit about the history.
Sure. I feel like it was 2018. I was acting in a play in Boston, and I had been trying to act just for a long time in this area, and I feel like very soon I kind of realized that if I wanted community, if I wanted to work with artists that looked like me, I have to go to Boston. So I was going to Boston, taking the commuter rail, driving, and I was doing a play in 2018, and myself and the cast, which were all Black women, we just started talking about black hair, and we could remember old perm commercial songs, and we were like swapping stories, and I remember feeling so good, and I was like, man, I wish I could have this in Lowell, like this kind of community. And it kind of just stuck with me. And then at the time, coincidentally, I was working at Entrepreneurship for All in Lowell. I was the marketing manager. So I'd be, you know, listening on entrepreneur stories and writing their dreams and how they happened. And I found myself like itching almost to do my own thing. So in 2019, that's when I hit up some folks in Lowell, my friends, and was like, do you want to do a play about black hair? And we ended up putting on our first play ever. So since 2019, it's kind of been this journey of how do we create opportunities for artists of color specifically to do what they do, whether it's teach like you, perform, act, visual art, performing art, everything. But at the time, it really came out of a frustration because I didn't feel like I could do the work I wanted to do in Lowell. And I would think since 2019 that we just opened more doors for more folks that look like me to do what they love, to get paid to do what they love, to do what they love, where they sleep, and not have to go outside for that support.
Yes. And how was you studied right before the pandemic?
Yeah.
Or during the pandemic?
Yeah.
How was that?
In the beginning, it was personal, like it was kind of both things at once. I felt like professionally, I had just finished the first 12 weeks of the E4All program. So everyone, I think it was like December 2019, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna do it. We had all these business plans and hopes.
Yeah.
And then when you see the rollout of like, okay, we're gonna be back in the office in 2 weeks, and it was like, 4 weeks, and the time was going on. I ended up quitting E4All to do Free Soil full time because the pandemic for me and the world seeming to finally care about Black lives, I had a lot of like reckoning to do with myself about work and like what I want to spend my time doing. And so personally, it was very challenging. I was living alone at the time, so lots of like isolation, depression, like I wasn't going grocery shopping, like it was really dark. And the work for Free Soil, we made it all virtual. So we did plays online, we did youth programs online. We had a residency with Merrimack Repertory Theater that provided us with financial support and also infrastructure like office spaces and like an apartment so that we could really strengthen ourselves. So we kept going. And I feel like now we're still doing some stuff virtually. Like we had the mixer last night that you were on Zoom for, but it was tough. It is tough, but I do think there's some people out there who almost needed the pandemic to understand like the importance of the work that we were doing. It's like in 2019, there were all these rooms I was trying to get into, all these meetings I wanted to have, and people weren't responding. And then it's like in 2020, folks were like, hey, Christa, what's up with Free Soil?
Yeah.
So it was the intent of that I could question, but it ended up being a blessing for us. People seeming to have more empathy, I think, for Black and brown folks during that time. And now I think as an organization, like we put our own self-care above everything else. So we really value like our mental health, our wellness. We take breaks when we want. You know, if my staff is like, hey, I'm not in a good spirit, okay, great, take the day off. Like we pivot and we work around that.
So I was going to ask about leadership.
Yeah.
Your leadership.
Yeah.
And it has to do because when the period that we were working together, I felt like I imagined that you were like involved in so many things. But when we had the time together, you seemed very like present.
Okay.
You really listened to the stuff, and you were taking out. We really can feel that you care, and you are listening to us. You feel heard and the sense of belonging, like a community, and that's amazing. Because I think we need more leaders like you know. And how do you define yourself as a leader?
Oh gosh, I think I strive to be someone who, I just want folks to feel comfortable, like feel like they can be honest about things. And I think I've worked for nothing but nonprofits my life. except for one short stint at Dunkin' Donuts. And I feel like I observed things that I didn't like. And I would make these like kind of mental notes of like, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. And now to be in this position where we've grown, sometimes I'm not comfortable with the weight of it, of, you know, being the go-to for financial problems or anything that we have that comes up with HR, or sometimes I get, what do they call it, like decision fatigue, and sometimes I just freeze, I don't know what to do. But I do try to push myself through those moments and to at least communicate clearly, let people not feel judged. I like to make space for everything. I feel like recently I've been learning about like cooperative movements and people that are living on land, and they come up with these systems of communicating, and everyone has a voice, everyone's heard. You don't cut people off, you let them talk. And I try to do that as a leader, whether I'm in a meeting with a donor or a staff person. One of my mentors, like Anthony Nana, will tell me like, just listen. Like, don't come up with your list of questions. The person you're talking to will tell you what they need. So I try to kind of take myself out of it and hope that I'm helping the person just feel comfortable to speak whatever their truth is. And I think it's good with the artists we work with staff. I hope it's a space where people can show up fully and just be who they are. Because I haven't felt like I've had that in workspaces. I've been really concerned about how I look, how I sound. And now, like, you know, my team, we wear what we want, we say what we want. It's there's no real formality. So I like to be, you know, chill and easy, hopefully. Yeah.
More about your projects and the program, and also the upcoming projects.
Yeah, so we do a lot of different types of art, I suppose. So we produce plays. We have a speaker series called Vital Voices, where we spotlight an artist of color, 6 total every year, with video and interviews. And we have a play coming up in September. So we published a book, Hidden in Plain Sight, Stories of Black Lowell, and we're now adapting that into a play. So I think it's September 7th to 9th. We'll be presenting kind of a first listen of it to the community. Our Vital Voices series is going to be kicking off later this month, I believe. We have a youth program that's starting next month from March to June. It's free for anyone who is a high school, college student, where we have visual art, we have dance and movement, all taught by artists of color. I'm probably missing other things, but we're constantly trying to collaborate with as many artists of color as we can, and just figuring out like, how can we support you, even if it's not working with us, like, what do you need? And we're a small team, but we're really, I think, working to make an ecosystem of artists of color where we can just, you know, help each other and see what we can do to advance ourselves and advance other people. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too.
What is the story that you want to tell?
I think there are kind of 2 stories I want to tell. One is just to don't doubt the power of your dreams. Like, Free Soil was an idea, and I doubted myself a lot. I think I had the idea for years before I actually took action on it. And I hope that what I've done can really inspire people to know that whatever you want to do, you can do. And I believe that the universe, God, will provide you with the opportunities, the people, whatever you need. It will chase you down, it'll help you. And when I think about Free Soil as an organization, I just think that, you know, folks of color we're vital. I think we've been cut out of a lot of spaces. We've been underexplored, under-tapped into, and I think our story is like, we're a force to be reckoned with, and get on board or get off. Like, we're here, and I think we're growing, and I think that's the legacy we're building, is that when we are building our own community with each other, we can do anything we want.
Since you started, you won a lot of awards already.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
So share.
Oh gosh. Okay. WBUR, there's a group called The Makers every year. We were part of their 2022 series. We were one of 15 folks that were recognized. We received the Newell Flather Award in Public Art from the New England Foundation for the Arts, which folks can look into and apply for. If you need a nomination, let me know. We were also honored by UMass Lowell, I think in 2021, with the Distinguished Service Award, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Distinguished Service Award. So it's been, the accolades do sometimes just affirm the work we're doing. Sometimes, especially if we're in a period of time where you may have doubt or something, being recognized by folks outside just, I think, reminds me and reminds the team that like what we're doing is necessary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
More to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
What are the changes that you notice in the community?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's some organizations, I don't know if the organization is the right word, but it seems to be like folks are very hungry for artists of color just to work with, to partner with. So we've been getting way more inquiries than we did in the beginning for people who are like, hey, Free Soil, do you know any rappers, singers, actors for this thing? And I feel like our community has grown. We've gone from, I think the first year, maybe it was 20 something artists we worked with, and now it's like close to 70. So now we have this nice like group of folks that we can work with and collaborate with. And I think I found myself not feeling like I need to explain as much as I did in the past. I feel like folks get it, and that's been comforting, even from foundations and people who are giving out grants. They're saying like, we recognize that artists of color are vital. I'm like, so it seems like the nonprofit landscape seems to at least attempt to really understand what we're doing and is trying to do something about it. So it doesn't feel as difficult in selling the value of what we're doing anymore, which is amazing. I mean, we still do it. We still have to sometimes, but it's been really cool to see how the landscape has changed, and a lot of things are just for folks of color. A lot of funding out there, a lot of opportunity. And I feel like it seems like the community of Lowell too is just convening more about like arts and culture and inclusion, and it seems to be something that folks are working towards, like actively, not just saying. And that feels good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I want to ask you, because I forgot to ask you about it, the name, the inspiration for the name Free Soil.
Mm-hmm. So it's an homage to both Nathaniel Booth, who was an enslaved person who came to Lowell the late 1800s, I believe. And he came to Lowell seeking safety, refuge, and there was a group called the Free Soil Party that advocated for him and other enslaved people for freedom. They wanted everyone who was enslaved to have freedom, and their motto was free labor, free soil, free men. And when I read that story, I thought about how we could use the art to kind of say that folks of color, like the soil is free, all these things are free, and we should feel just as free in whatever we're doing artistically. So that's kind of our tie, and I wanted it to have a name that was tied to this place and to this story. So yeah, it's just freedom of expression, I think. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you got it, you started thinking about the nonprofits, did you think about the name first? Did you research it first about the name? Where I go for saying the name for it?
I think I did.
Yes, or you just was something that just happened that you came across?
I remember in the middle of rehearsals for our first play, Hair Tale Stories of Black Heritage, with Asada Jones, Keziah Bascom, Michelle Gandia, and Ritza Grooms. We were talking, and I brought ideas to them, and I forgot what the other options were. And I was like, there's something like free soil that's just sticking with me. And I know folks are gonna think it has to do with dirt. And I know it sounds like not immediately like an arts organization, but it stuck. And so I guess we were midway with work until we had settled on the name. Mm-hmm. But it was always in the back of my mind. Yeah. And I think I waited a few months, and then we did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what else would you like to share with us?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I really am just on this whole like doing what you want, life being short. Like I just think both the pandemic, the state of the world, so much stuff can feel like out of our control. but I really would, kind of charge people to like write down what your dreams are. Share them with friends. There's something about writing stuff down scientifically that does something. I don't know exactly, but it makes what you're writing down easier for you to attract. And I just believe in that wholeheartedly. And I think, what else?
You're an actress, you're a storyteller, you are a director, you are a lot of things. So what else would you like to accomplish that you feel that you haven't tried yet?
Yeah. It's funny with Free Soil because I want to perform more, and it's with founding Free Soil. A lot of the work that it takes to build, my priority is like making Free Soil like a well-oiled machine. And I think it's taken till this year for me to really be like, oh, I really miss performing myself. And so I'm gonna start, auditioning again and seeing where there's room for me to participate in some of the stuff that Free Soil is doing. I've missed that, and I think, I think that's it. I want to make just as much space for work as I do play, and not even thinking about the money attached. I just want projects that like speak to me. I love like storytelling and talking, just like you're doing, and getting folks stories and using theater to amplify stories that don't get told. So I'm excited to kind of lean into that more intentionally this year, because I think if we don't have our own well-being, someone told me this the other day, if we are not well ourselves, then everything that we work to build will just crumble. So we need to be, at peace and happy and joyful and like doing what we need to do. And I feel like sometimes it's not a quick decision. Like I've stayed in jobs way past the time when I was like, I'm out. And you will eventually like reach a point that may, push you to making your dreams happen. That's okay too. But I'm just very pro dreams and exploring and traveling and eating food, and I just want all the goodness I can have. Yeah.
You're right. We all should have that.
Yeah.
So Christa, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate spending a little more time with you today. So that's it for tonight. A Hora da Poetisa termina aqui. Obrigada.
Yeah.
When I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. And while combing my hair now, and wondering what dress to wear now, I say a little prayer for you. Forever and forever, you'll stay in my heart, and I will love you forever. At work, I just take time.